I think Jeffrey's got a few. Last October, we held one of our annual fundraisers, which was the fashion show with the American Heart Association. I chaired that event and began working, as y'all know, months ahead of time. Well, it was in August that I was at my desk working at home one day and trying to wrap up. I know it was on a Thursday because I was trying to wrap up a lot of loose ends because the next day my plans were to be at the hospital while a special friend of mine was having heart surgery. Well, I got a phone, I got a phone call, and they said, Sarah, don't come to the hospital tomorrow. Surgery has been postponed. And so when I was asking why, they said, well, the doctor doesn't want to do surgery right now. He said, Jeff's doing well, he's holding his own, and with research going the way it is, who knows what will happen in the next few years that could make a whole lot of difference in the surgery that can be performed. I hung up the phone. Here I was working on things for the Heart Association, which our goal is to raise money for research. Thought, now I understand why I'm doing all of this. So it's with great pleasure that I introduce you today to my special friend, Jeff Nichols.
Too, if you had someone this beautiful introducing you. Thanks a lot. Hello, I'm Jeff Nichols. Most of you don't know me, but you are destined to be in my audience because of your involvement in the American Heart Association. You're a giver and needed to be thanked. I am a taker, and I came to say thanks. I really want to thank Mr. Bill Anderson, who, as you know, is in your club. He did a write-up on me in his lifestyle magazine. Since then, I have become famous. I never realized how large of a circulation the Fort Bend Lifestyle has, or how many important people read it. 3 weeks ago, I received this letter and said, "Don't give up. There's a place in the world for little boys. I know that you can make it, because I did." It was from Dan Quail. The day before yesterday, this card came in the mail. It said, "If you see something you want, go for it. Be aggressive. Don't give up. Die hard. Saddam Hussein." So, Mr. Anderson, it's people like yourself and Dan and Saddam that make the world what it is today. Thanks for your help. A couple of reasons why I was chosen over everybody else to be here today. The big reason, there wasn't anybody else. Most of them use the standard excuse. I can't speak before a large group, or I have a bad heart. For me, it certainly beats being in class. The other reason is because of my involvement in stand-up comedy. Some of you are actually asking yourself, how long has he been doing stand-up comedy? I feel that I should share with you that I am awaiting an official invitation to be on The Tonight Show. In fact, I've been waiting 3 months for Jay Leno to return my call. If he doesn't call by the end of the year, I'll be forced to cancel him from my schedule and go on to bigger and better things. You know, being a heart patient isn't all that bad. In fact, I enjoy 3 privileges that most everybody in the world is envious of. First of all, most girls want to know what diet I'm on to keep my weight down. Why are you so skinny? How do you do it? Number 2, people tell me that I don't look my age. So young, so youthful. Some say, Jeffrey, you look so immature. I suppose that means young. Number 3, being a heart patient, people are always feeling sorry for me. And everybody I know likes attention. So the big 3 today is diet, youth, and attention. And I've got all 3. And you know, I've noticed at school, all the girls my age like the guys that are macho. You know, tall, dark, and handsome. Well, being a heart patient, I've had to settle for short, light, and cute. I guess 3 out of 4 is not bad. When I was born a few days ago, the doctor thought that I was just a large C-section baby who didn't get all the fluid out of his lungs, that I would be all right in a week to 10 days. At the end of 1 week, the doctors began to suspect something might be wrong with my heart. My cardiologist, Dr. Nichols, checked me over and had me transferred out. It would be the first of many trips to Texas Children's Hospital. After further testing, they discovered that one lung had collapsed in the upper lobe and was overextended in the lower. The cath showed that I had pseudo-truncus, which means no pulmonary artery. Only small blood vessels were taking the blood to my lungs. There was a hole between the bottom chambers of my heart that turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because that allowed the red and the blue bloods to mix. Now I had a system that would work. We just weren't sure what would happen. I spent 5 weeks in intensive care on a respirator and had lots of tubes and equipment. I lost 2 pounds during that time. That was the beginning of my famous weight loss program that was to follow me through life. I lost 20% of my body weight in just 30 days. As young as I was beginning to see that Texas Children's was going to be my kind of place. On Thanksgiving Day, I was transferred to intermediate care and was still on oxygen. Later, the nurses could not get my visual attention and thought all the long time on oxygen had made me blind. Tests proved otherwise. Actually, what it was, I was in deep, deep concentration. I was working on the speech for today. On December 16, 1977, I went home. My mom spent 2.5 hours of every 4 hours taking care of me. She fed me every hour around the clock. While in the hospital, I was fed on a milk drip. While doing that, I forgot how to suck. Talking about the pits, a baby that can't suck? Because of that. Because of that, Mom had to learn how to put a tube down my nose to my stomach so I could eat. I remember wanting to ask Mom if we were having fun yet. On January 6, 1978, I went back to the hospital for another 10 days. Nothing important. They just thought I was dying. My parents were then informed that I would be in and out of the hospital for almost every little thing. I actually stayed well for a whole year before I went back to the hospital in December of '78. Well, after that, the years began to pass. I became stronger and bigger, not to mention sweeter. I had gained my 2 pounds back and was well on my way to becoming big. The tube and the nose meals gave way to Jack in the Box. I understood early in life why people like to eat out. As I began to grow, my lungs had difficulty receiving oxygenated blood because of my defect. I began to get weaker and short of breath, so my doctor knew that I would soon need corrective surgery. Dr. Denton Cooley was asked to do the surgery. His mission was to try to connect up the small blood vessel with the conduit. If not, then he would install a Cooley shunt, as it had come to be known. Once they opened my massive chest in June of '86, Dr. Cooley was only able to do the shunt. He told my parents that in a few years I would probably need additional surgery. I was 8 years old at the time. It was easy to tell that the surgery did me some good, because in PE I was now able to outrun most of the girls. The wonders of modern medicine. About 2 months ago, Dr. Nichols, after doing a heart cath, said that I would need additional surgery. The girls were starting to outrun me again. Dr. Rule, who was on Dr. Cooley's team, would be the best surgeon since he had been doing this type of surgery for about 5 years. Dr. Rule was on vacation at the time and would be for 2 weeks. We scheduled the surgery for 3 days after he returned. My parents received a phone call the morning of the surgery, and Dr. Rule said that he would not do the surgery. He said that more research needed to be done and that I needed to wait a while. Well, one thing I have learned in life to do is to wait. I've come down the road now 13 years in time since I was born at Rosewood Hospital on December 13, 1977. I certainly didn't expect you to show up today with a lot of birthday presents, but my address is available upon request. And my selections are at Toys R Us. Well, actually, today is not my birthday. When I first gave this talk, it was. I asked you, is it my fault you're so late inviting me? You may remember Ray Kinsella. He owned a farm in the cornfields of Iowa. He had a vision that if he would build a baseball park, then the legendary heroes of yesteryear would come to play on his field of dreams. A quiet, persistent voice kept saying to him, if you will build it, if you will come. So he tore down the cornfields and built a baseball park in his own backyard. And sure enough, it began to happen. Shoeless Joe Jackson, who never had a second chance to return to the game, came to the cornfields to realize his dream. Doc Graham, who was never good enough to play in many games, returned to fulfill his lifelong dream to get his only hit in the major leagues. But the last person to come to Ray's Field of Dreams was his own dad, John Kinsella. But the movie ended too soon. Perhaps had it fulfilled one more dream, then it would have had a better ending. And that dream would be of a little boy who never got to play the game, only with his father in the front yard if he wasn't too tired when he came home from work. So the little boy who lives in USA, America, would come to the Field of Dreams with no name, no experience, and no knowledge. But his heart would quicken as the ump said, play ball. His eyes would sparkle at the crack of a bat, and his dreams would be fulfilled as he would run the bases and the crowd would roar. The point of the Field of Dreams was simply this. If you believe in the impossible, then the incredible can come true. Had I been born at the time of my older brother, the doctors would have looked at my life and said, oh, that's impossible. But if I live to be 30 years old, the same doctors will have to look back and say, oh, that's incredible. Because of research today, and because of you, because you care, the incredible can come true. At the baseball park, they will lead us to believe that dreams are what life is made of. But at the American Heart Association, we have learned so well that life is what dreams are made of. Dr. Graham finally discovered, when he came to the Field of Dreams, that his real ambition in life was not getting a hit in the major leagues, but his real dream was doing exactly what he did in real life, helping the little children to get well, be happy, and build a better life. So I want to thank you for what you are doing.